Welcome to ACC Nation, featuring sports news and special guest interviews. Here's Will Ojanen and Jim Quist.
Welcome to ACC Nation. That's Will Ojanen with the profile of Abraham Lincoln. Something.
You know, I got to make it weird.
There's a few others that I could throw out, but I'm not going to. Wow. Some interesting football this past weekend. And, you know, as we get closer and closer, Will, to the end of the regular season, week by week, obviously, it is it's fleshing out in a way that I don't think we anticipated. In a lot of ways, we would not have anticipated a couple of these teams being where they are at the moment. And those who are bowl eligible, some of them we would have said, sure, yeah, we can see that, but not maybe as quickly. It's interesting. Let's take a look at what happened week 9 and get into the Thursday game. Thursday, Friday, Saturday games in the ACC. I don't know why we do Thursday and Friday games. Honestly, I don't. Anyway, got to put them someplace. It's all about TV content. Pittsburgh rolled to a huge win, starting to show us who they are, what they are capable of doing. I still want to see a little more consistency out of them. They had a 41-13 win over Syracuse, and I would say that was a significant win because I don't believe Syracuse to be, even though they're dinged up, I don't believe them to be an easy game, an easy out for anybody this season.
Well, first things first, I think I threw you off so much that you didn't introduce yourself, but that's Jim Quist over there.
Other guy.
Anyways, but yeah, to be fair, I didn't get to watch a ton of this game because the Vikings were playing at the same time and I was a little more focused on this game, but
it's a priority.
You know, when you get your face mask yanked and you have two refs looking at it and don't call it, you know, whatever.
Yeah, the most obvious thing in the world, people staring right at it and no movement at all toward the yellow. No.
If I was choosing a song for that game, it would be Three Blind Mice, but we're talking about Syracuse Pitt, and Kyle McCord has thrown yet another pick six.
Yeah. It's been a tough road here.
Yeah, that was a tough game. Like, that was one of those ultimate, like, throw the tape in the garbage and just start over type of games if you're Syracuse. I mean, McCord had 3 pick sixes through 5 picks total, and it led to 31 Syracuse or Pittsburgh points. Jeez.
That's enough of that game.
Yeah. And it got worse. This is more of a visual thing, but I'm about to put up the on the screen the number of yards Syracuse had rushing.
Unreal.
6 yards.
Yeah. Them's crazy numbers. Crazy talk.
And, you know, the funny thing is Pitt really didn't do much on offense. They only had 217 yards of offense. They kind of struggled offensively in this game, but then again, why the hell are you going to care about the offense when Kyle McCord is your, who's on the other team is your offense?
I see where you went there with that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's true. There's a lot to be said when, you know, the opposing quarterback is delivering the points for you. Who's to argue with that? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That a disappointing performance by Syracuse, but again, Pitt is really starting to come on as the season progresses. They're getting better and better, and have had probably the best performance they've had team-wise in quite a few years, especially under Pat Narduzzi. You know, I certainly gave Pat Narduzzi a lot of crap um, several shows back in regard to, you really got to do something here, Pat. I mean, seriously, I was looking at him as being, you either got to deliver something here, or you're going to be on a very warm seat. Now that's my opinion, and at this point, that's thrown out the window, along with a lot of people who don't agree with Vladimir Putin. So
I just want to make another point here. Just kind of on the, I was listening to a podcast today, and it was something that kind of stuck in my craw, and it like kind of made me think about it. Pitt's sitting here at 7-0,
mhm.
and they're currently ranked 18th in the AP poll behind a 2-loss LSU, a 1-loss Boise State, a 2-loss Alabama. What does Pitt need to do?
Just keep playing the way they're playing.
Well,
that's what coach says too.
yeah, and it goes back to something you and I were talking, like a point I made in our little group chat yesterday is like polls are trash.
They are.
Yet I do one every week for ACC Nation Radio. Because what are they for?
Click, click, click. That's right. Well, I'll continue to say this season, especially, the AP has been off track. Are any of you folks actually watching games, or are you just like, going on X and seeing what people are saying about a game and then making your decisions based on that? Because honestly, there's some stupid votes going on the AP. The coaches,
I think it
it's
must
not
be
so
a
bad.
rule that like 2/3 of the top like 16 have to be from like SEC and Big Ten schools or something. I mean, hell, Indiana sitting here at 8-0, one of the biggest stories of the season, and they're number
Mhm.
13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it, it it's I don't know.
Hey, at least they put Miami in the top five.
Some people look at it's something to put on your resume. I'm an
Yeah.
AP voter. Okay. Do you know what the hell you're talking about half the time?
Yeah.
Do you actually understand football? Did you play football?
I don't know. When you
Not that you
said
have to, but
when you said I'm an AP voter, all I could think of is that being said in Ralph Wiggum's voice.
yeah.
I'm an AP vote. I can't do it because I can't do a high pitched voice really well, but that's all I could think of.
Anyway, we could go on and on about polls and stuff. And
Yeah. Don't
this
mean
week,
much.
I wanted to hold back that, you made the comment about the Vikings game, and that ref just, I mean, blatantly looking right at that infraction and not calling it. And that, along with about a half a dozen other calls that were not made or should have been made or were blatant as hell, and refs are not calling stuff. And I'm going, what the
I
hell's wrong
mean,
with these guys? I mean, honest to God, what's wrong with these guys? And there's women out there too, but I'm telling you right now, the woman that I saw reffing in a game the other day was doing an awesome job, and so I can't diss on her, but man, the guys are like,
mhm.
holy smokes, you're bad, you're
I,
just
I mean,
horrible.
I mean, last week was a rough week for officiating against Minnesota sports teams. So you don't get me started about that. But maybe they should take LASIK's offer up on getting a free LASIK
It
for
won't do any good.
officials.
You
Mhm.
gotta have a brain to process the visual that's coming in, because I'm beginning to wonder if some of them actually
Uh,
understand the rules and understand how to actually ref, because it's very questionable. It's kind of
okay, I
worse.
got it. I
Yeah.
got it. So what you're saying is all refs are scarecrows
Not all.
because they don't have brains.
Well, it's close. Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Yep. And there's somebody behind the curtain pulling the levers. Let's move on. God. Man, did we go off track? All right. On Friday, it was Louisville and Boston College. Boy, Louisville, what's going on, folks? Boston College had it all over you, and then, literally dropped the ball. Louisville 31, Boston College 27. Man, that must have been puckering some people up.
Man, you're talking about something being all over you, you puckering up. Are we in ACC Nation After Dark here?
After dark.
ACC Nation After Dark.
It's getting darker by the
What
minute.
what the hell is going on with us? We have really gone off track tonight.
I don't know.
And that's okay. That's okay.
It's getting close to Halloween. That's it.
Yeah,
It's the
that's what
end
it
of it.
is.
Yeah. And it's
But
that extra moon that we have circling around the earth right now. It's having an effect.
no.
Full moon. All right.
Exactly. Anyways,
Yes.
Boston College was handling them pretty well, in the first half, but Louisville came back in the fourth and scored 14 unanswered to win the game. And behind Tyler Shuck, 333 yards in this game, 2 touchdown passes. Isaac Brown had two tutties on the ground. One of those freshmen that is going to be a name to watch over the next couple of years in terms of like best running backs in the conference. You will hear his name a lot. He has been an awesome back for the Cardinals this year. Um, Thomas Castellanos 3 touchdown passes in this game. He actually played well. And then they also benefited from 3 Louisville turnovers. But again, going back to it, they just couldn't quite hold on in the end. It's like the last few weeks, it feels like Louisville's been playing to their opponents. Playing to the level of their opponents. They've had a close loss to SMU, a close loss to Miami, but here they had a close win against Boston College.
Every time I see one of these games, for some reason, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Porky's.
A long time ago.
Long time
I
ago.
don't really remember much about it.
The thing that pops into my brain is Porky himself saying, "Here comes your night to remember." And opening the door, and the guys go falling out into the swamp. And games like this, it's just like, oh my gosh, yeah, you thought you were going one place, and you ended up in another. Let's get into these Saturday games, and we'll talk a little bit about. Man, there were a couple of games here that also qualified for Porky's. The Porky's Award. Maybe we should do that. The Porky's Award. This one doesn't really fall into it. Virginia Tech with a 21-6 win over Georgia Tech. I expected more out of Georgia Tech in this game. Virginia Tech, I would say, is beginning to exercise a little bit more of showing a little more ability. Now, whether or not they're going to improve significantly between now and the end of the season, it's anybody's guess. I don't see much further progression, to be frank, but next year could be very exciting. And I think the same thing for Georgia Tech as well.
Yeah. Georgia Tech's like their quarterback situation, because of Haynes King being banged up and missing a couple of games, has really kind of messed with them. I mean, he was out for this game. Zach Pyron started the game, but he struggled mightily, and they brought in a true freshman. Aaron Philo came in. He actually looked decent. He completed sub 50% of his passes, but he threw for more yards than Pyron did. But the other issue is Jamal Haynes has been extremely inconsistent this season. In this game, he had 18 carries for 47 yards. And just to kind of show the inconsistency, he started off the season with a couple of good games in a row, but then struggled in 3 straight games. Turned around, had 2 good games against Duke and UNC, and then he struggled in the last couple of games. They need him to be consistent in order for Georgia Tech to be who they should be, and obviously that's aside from Haynes King being healthy and kind of wondering when he'll be back. As for the Hokies, only 233 yards of offense in this game. Bashal Tootin was actually injured in this game. I was seeing the walking boot after the game. I kind of wonder, and as of recording, we don't know his status going forward, but he is an integral part of the Hokies offense. And if they are missing him for an extended period of time, that could be trouble. But as I said, the Hokies have just steadily, they're like the one team in my rankings that have just steadily climbed, you know, through the last handful of weeks. I think I can't remember where I have them right off the top of my head, but I have them right around like 6 or 7. But
I will tell you, you have them 7.
yeah, so and I could probably put them higher if I really wanted to, but I just think some of it too is okay. Look at okay, Louisville, Syracuse, SMU, Pitt, Clemson, Miami. I think that they're all either equal or better than the Hokies as a whole. But maybe I mean if maybe if Syracuse stumbles again, they could pass. Virginia Tech could pass them. I could see that absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list of your football rankings for the ACC for Week 9, and and by the way, as Will mentioned, you can hear that exclusively at ACC Nation Radio. Go to the website at accnation.net and click on that nice little link there right in the middle of the page. It'll take you to the site for streaming radio. Not only can you hear this program and some of the other programs that we have done, but also the guys from All Sports Discussion have some programs that are up there. And of course, Will's rankings are available. So there's that and a lot more. And just as a real quick note, I will say thank you to the people who are listening outside of the United States, but we appreciate the folks who are in the U.S. obviously, but there's an awful lot of listeners who are in Germany and a lot of the European countries. There's a lot of Caribbean and a lot of South America. India is also big. And there's a wide variety of countries where people are listening on a regular basis to ACC Nation streaming radio, and we appreciate you being there. And feel free to drop us a line at contact@accnation.net. Contact@accnation.net. Let us know what you're thinking, where you're from. We'll give you a shout out if you do that. Okay. Let's look at the next game on here. This prompted an article by Will, and it's getting a lot of interesting and varied responses on Reddit.
The Twitter machine.
North Carolina over Virginia, 41-14. I'm baffled. Should have been closer.
This is kind of how I felt Saturday after the game.
I see. Just had to a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tasty.
Lots of brewskis. I honestly, I'm surprised that North Carolina rolled off that many points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that Virginia. They just fell flat. I mean, this was a very disconcerting game in a lot of ways, and I think is bringing a number of people at Virginia to warmer seats.
So, for those of you wondering, I'm drinking an N150 IPA from Three Roads Brewing in Farmville, Virginia. I picked that up while I was down there a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah, this Honestly, this game said more about to me, like I said, about Virginia than it did UNC. Virginia came in as like a 3.5 point favorite to kick off. And yeah, they were down their best offensive lineman to Brian Cedars and another offensive lineman type finish. They were down two starters in the offensive line. But that is no reason, no
Only
excuse
two.
to give up 10 sacks.
Inexcusable.
Like
Seriously.
I it's just maddening. This is your second biggest rival. Last year you beat them at their place when they were a top 10 team. You came into this game, with some momentum. You played Clemson well the week before at their place. You, like I said, you were a favorite coming into this game, and I I don't know when I've seen this team laid a bigger turd than on the football field. It's been a while. Like I thought they got over this. Apparently not.
Yeah, apparently not.
So I invite y'all to check out my column on accnation.net about just the struggles of this team and the ability to replace, if you replace, the some of the staff or the coaches. Like Virginia's history the last close to 20 years shows it's just not a great job right now. It's not. Like, yeah, you can get rid of Tony Elliott, and that might happen probably in the next couple of years if things don't turn on. And be honest with you, there's a lot of starters that are going to be gone after this season. It's going to be a whole new Virginia team next year, and who the hell knows who's going to leave in the portal? They ain't going to stick around for the constant losing. It's it's not good, folks. It's not good. And I laid out a lot of things in that column. Just talk about just how bad the offense has been. That's been my number one target for the past couple of years. Like it's not just, the yards per game thing, it's the red zone. Like this is the second straight year this team has been ranked 104th out of 133 teams in red zone efficiency. Because they get in the red zone, they don't know what the bleep to do. They end up kicking a lot of field goals, which great. Will Bettridge is a very accurate kicker. But you aren't going to win games with a lot of threes on the board. So let's talk about North Carolina on the positive side, though. Amari Hampton surpassed 1,000 yards for the season with 105 yards in this game. Jacoby Briswell, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, and J.G. Jones, 5 catches, 129 yards. Had a career game there. I mean, this is the kind of game North Carolina needed to rebound, and maybe it turns their season around as well. It they've had their struggles on both sides of the ball, and like they probably won't play another better game this season.
Well, you really have to consider that if you're looking to go to a bowl, and we'll get into the latest projections for bowls because there's a new one out. There's a new one out every week, and they're all worth looking at just for the heck of it, just to drive you mad and make you pull your hair out trying to figure out how in the world you're going to set up hotel and airline tickets, etc. So take it with a grain of salt. Next up, Wake Forest over Stanford 27-24. Stanford, I think, is beginning to slowly move forward. They're nowhere near where they should be. Wake Forest has just fallen off the damn charts this year. I'm sure they'll be back, but it's just I always expect more out of Wake Forest. We didn't expect that much out of Stanford this season. And so when you put these two teams together with the performances they've had so far, I mean, Stanford knocked off Syracuse at Syracuse. So, I mean, you never know what you're going to get. 27-24. I don't know. It was a toss up. I think we thought it was a toss up when we talked about it last week.
We said this game would be the sicko game of the week, but
No.
I will say that Stanford beating Syracuse currently leads as the WTF outcome of the year.
Yes.
Um, yeah, this is I good win for Wake Forest going out on the road to get this win. Hank Bachmeier played well through 3 touchdown passes. Demond Claiborne, 23 carries, 127 yards. I mean, this guy is the offense for the Deacs. I mean, he's been really, really good. Doesn't get enough credit for how good he is, and I think he's like sixth or seventh in the ACC in rushing. But he's also been hurt, which is another kicker to it. He's been playing hurt, and he's still putting up some tough yards. I'm impressed by that. I mean, the thing about Stanford is Ashton Daniels is he's so up and down. I mean, he accounted for 268 of the team's 346 yards, whether it be through the air or on the ground. But he also threw 2 interceptions. And it's kind of I think if you're a Stanford fan, it's kind of maddening just how inconsistent he is. I mean, he's got I don't know if I call it inconsistent or he may not be it for all I know. He's a good runner, but he's got a lot of work to do as a passer. Alec Aomanor, 11 catches, 96 yards in this game, and Stanford turned the ball over 4 times, and Wake got 14 points off of them, and in a
There you
3-point
go.
game,
Yep.
turnovers haunt.
That's what it did. All right. Cal rolled to a big win, 44-7 over Oregon State. I thought that was a nice game for the Golden Bears. I'm so disappointed for Cal fans and for that team. They have been so close to winning so many games, and I don't think they're going to be able to pull off enough to get into a bowl this season. And there's, we talked about last week and the week before, they're losing games by, onesies, twosies, and collectively all those losses, it's what, less than 10 points or something along those lines. It's just
9.
insane. So you really would love to see them be in a position to get a bowl, but I don't see it happening, unfortunately. But anyway, this is a nice big win.
That's funny. It's not all that long ago. This game was a Pac-12 game.
Yep. Just last year.
Yeah, exactly. But because of the landscape of college football, this is no longer that. It is an ACC game versus a quasi-independent in Oregon State. But yeah,
it's an
this was
Atlantic Coast game instead of a Pacific game.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza, 364 yards and a couple of touchdowns in this game. Probably one of his better games of the year. Jaden Ott did play in this game, but he still does not look right. 10 carries, 11 yards, just not himself. The defense held Oregon State to 200 yards of offense, which again, we've talked about how good Cal's defense is. It's kind of just want to point this out because we talked about, Virginia's inability to really do much in the red zone. Cal was 8 for 8 in the red zone in this game.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
If you can deliver in the red zone like that, you're going to win a lot of games. You should. 50-50 in the red zone is not bad. Ideally, you'd like to go like 60 to 70% of the time. But, 8 for 8. Very good. All right. Let's go down to this cross-state rivalry that Miami fans have been waiting forever to enjoy, and they don't seem to be enjoying it like I would imagine that they would have. Miami with a 36-14 win over Florida State. I guess it's because it just doesn't have the same meaning considering how Florida State's been playing.
Yeah, when it's this version of Florida State, I mean,
Right.
you beat them, cool. That's what you wanted.
Nice
But
turnout at Hard Rock, by the way.
yeah, it was. And what you did do is knock the Knowles out of bowl eligibility.
Yep.
They're now 1-7. Um, the thing about this game is like Cam Ward wasn't great in this game, which was rare for him, but this is Miami's. I mean, they if they struggle in one area, they can beat you in another area. Because they can run the ball really well. They ran for 230 yards in this game. Damian Martinez had 148 himself, and just it was like 15 carries or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so Florida State, Brockland, and Booth Cromanhook played, but Brockland's not it, folks. I just don't see it. I think he completed like 33% of his passes or something. He is really bad in this game, and Chrono wasn't much better, but he did have that 42-yard run on like 4th and 1 where he just kind of like slithered out of the
Yeah.
pack on that
Yeah.
QB sneak and ended up getting, like I said, 42 yards. But I just feel like it looks like he has more upside at this point. And I don't know, now that you're not going to go to a bowl, what's the harm in
Play.
trying him out? See what
That's
he's
right.
got. You're going to be going to the portal for a quarterback, in the offseason, whether he competes with these guys in 2025 or is, or will be an outright starter, who knows? But we know the Knowles are going to go into the portal in 25 for
Got to
a
do something.
quarterback. Mhm.
And another one of those Porky's games, SMU over Duke, 28-27 in overtime. Um, quite a game. Quite a game.
So I gotta give you the stat courtesy of OptaStats. Teams were 1 and 124 this century when having a losing turnover margin of 6 or more. Because Saturday that became 2 and 124 because SMU turned the ball over 6 times and still won the game. The only time that other time that's happened this century was in 2011 when Marshall beat Memphis, despite that a -6 turnover margin. Kevin Jennings threw 3 picks in this game. Um, yeah, that was just a rough game. Some of them aren't all his fault. I mean, there was a tipped one, but still, it just boggles my mind thinking that they turned the ball over 6 times and still won. But Brashard Smith, 26 carries, 117 yards. He's such a valuable piece to that SMU offense. And we talked about, losing RJ Maryland for the season and, needing, other people to step up. And obviously Smith's doing that. I think one of my favorite stat lines from the week is in this game from SMU receiver Roderick Daniels Jr. 2 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown. He had I forget how many, it was like an 80 something yard touchdown and like another 70-yard catch where he got tackled at the 1.
Amazing.
Uh, but for Duke, Malik Murphy, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns. Eli Pankel, 11 catches, 138 yards. He's been a big playmaker for the Blue Devils lately. But Duke has a +10 turnover margin in the past 2 games, yet they barely won last week against Florida State and then lost here with the +6 turnover. So it feels like this was kind of a luck run out situation for the Blue Devils.
Interesting team because if you're struggling to beat FSU and then you go into a game against SMU, which is I think obviously a better team on a lot of levels, and you hold it to a 1 point game and it goes into overtime, I think that I don't quite know how to figure out the Blue Devils this season. I mean, they they find they find juice in places that I would never have imagined, and I got to say, Coach Diaz has done some spectacular things with a team that I would have never figured that would be this far along. I mean, they're bowl eligible too, so it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Speaking of bowl eligibility, Clemson, Miami, SMU, Pitt, and Duke. Who's close? Well, Virginia Tech is at 5-3. Louisville is at 5-3. Georgia Tech 5-4, and Syracuse 5-2. One of these two teams will not be bowl eligible this weekend, and that would be Virginia Tech and Syracuse because they're playing each other. So we'll see which one of the two steps out and does the do. Very quickly, look at the AP and coaches top five. It's Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, and Miami. Those are the top five in both the AP and the coaches poll. Looking at the AP, Notre Dame is at number 8, Clemson 11, Pitt 18, SMU 20, Louisville in receiving votes category at number 30. Meanwhile, in the coaches poll, they say Clemson is at number 8, Notre Dame at number 9, Pitt 17, SMU 20. Receiving vote category includes Virginia Tech at 33, Duke at 34, and Louisville at 36. Interesting. I certainly get more out of the coaches poll than I do the AP. I just, it's got some substance to it.
I don't know if it's a good one, but it's a substance.
It's got substance. We didn't say what type of substance. Let's quickly take a look at CBS Sports, Jerry Palm's projections for the bowls. Gasparilla, he's got South Alabama taking on Wake Forest. The Birmingham Bowl, it's Coastal Carolina and UNC. Holiday, it's Pitt and Oregon State. Fenway, Virginia Tech and USF. Pinstripe, Syracuse, and Minnesota. Pop-Tarts, Notre Dame and TCU. Military, Georgia Tech and Memphis. The Sun Bowl, Louisville and Arizona State. The Gator, SMU and Tennessee. Now, that could be an interesting matchup. I think Tennessee is certainly a powerful team. I don't know if SMU, I don't know if that's a good match, but it's an interesting game. Duke's Mayo Bowl, Duke versus Michigan. First round, they have Texas going up against Clemson. And then in the Peach, they have Miami. So that's the way that Jerry Palm from CBS Sports has it laid out for postseason activity. Nobody's talking about who they think is going to be the ACC, the two ACC teams that are going to the bowl. Or not bowl, but the championship game in Charlotte. My gut, to be honest with you, it could very well be Pitt and Miami. Might not be Clemson.
Well, they play not too long from now, so we're going to find out.
Yeah, we'll see. Whoever comes out of that game is the one who clinches it. So SMU will not be in that because of whatever. Anyway, so those top teams in the ACC, basically what you're looking at is Clemson, Miami, Pitt, SMU are those top 4 teams there. Pitt and Clemson, those are the two teams that are going to make or break the ACC championship game. So we'll see how that all plays out. Let's take a look ahead, Will, and preview this coming week. It's Stanford at NC State.
Yeah, Wolfpack coming off a bye this week. Looking at a 9.5-point spread here for the Wolfpack. And as I mentioned, CJ Bailey started to figure things out. And now that he's become the full-time starter with the news this week that Grayson McCall is retiring from football.
Yeah.
Wish him well in his future endeavors. But yeah, I like the Wolfpack in this game to get their 5th win.
Okay, next up is Duke at Miami.
In a normal circumstances, I'd probably like look at this as a letdown spot for the Hurricanes coming off the Florida State game, but I just don't think that's the case here. I mean, Duke's going to be frustrated coming off of this most recent game against SMU, but again, I just don't think they're going to have they have the firepower to keep up with Miami.
Don't think so either. Virginia Tech at Syracuse. Be careful, Virginia Tech. You're going into potential trap.
Yeah, this game will be one to monitor throughout the week, with depending on the health of Bashal Tutin. Right now, the Hokies are a 4-point favorite. But yeah, like I said, because whether or not he plays might be with the difference in who wins this game, honestly. I mean, if he has to sit out, then I think I like Syracuse better, especially with this game at Syracuse at the JMA Wireless Dome.
North Carolina at Florida State.
Yeah, it's funny because this game is in Tallahassee and Carolina's only a 2.5-point favorite. I, I just I I feel like Carolina should win this game.
It should.
Keyword is should.
Here's another game that could be a I would guarantee you the second I say this, Clemson fans are going to run me out of town on a rail. They're going to tar and feather me. Louisville at Clemson. Clemson, don't sleep on Louisville. I think that team has the potential of beating you on your home turf. And you know how it is in the ACC. There's always that one game. It could be this one. It could be Clemson and Pitt. Watch yourself.
Yep, this is going to be a very both of these nightcap games this week are going to be very interesting, and we'll have we'll obviously play a big role in who is going to the ACC championship game. Louisville, like I said, I think they can hang with just about anybody in the conference, and I think they can give Clemson a game here. But I feel like with this game being at Clemson, I feel like the home crowd is just going to be, I think Clemson wins here.
Next up is Pitt at SMU.
Boy, this is. Who would have thought this would be such an important game?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season. I mean, this one is hard to figure out, honestly. I mean, yeah, the game is at SMU, but I'm sure it's all not going to count Pitt out in this game. I'm surprised SMU is I've got SMU is a 7.5-point favorite, and quite frankly, that feels a bit high to me.
I think it is. I would say 2 at most.
Yeah, I think that the spread should be right around 2 to 3. Yeah.
That's just the preliminary betting that goes on, know.
And we know it's going to fluctuate a lot throughout the week, but I honestly have no idea who I would take in this game. Just the way I think this is a complete toss up to me.
We'll find out, won't we? All right. That's a look at what's going on with sports this week in football in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Once again, make sure that you check out Will's latest rankings of ACC football teams exclusively on ACC Nation Radio. You can simply go to accnation.net, click on our streaming radio platform and go there. Make sure that you follow us on a regular basis. Do invite you to subscribe and like the podcast, subscribe and like our YouTube channel, which you may be watching right now. And, if you've got comments, make sure that you drop them in there. Follow us on multiple social media outlets. As we mentioned earlier, Reddit, a lot of chatter about the story that Will put up in regard to Virginia on Reddit. Very interesting conversation going on there. And of course, we're in places like X and Facebook, and we're on Blue Sky, Mastodon, Threads. Gosh, you name it, we're pretty much there. So check it all out. Hey, until next time, cheers.
School.
Thanks for listening to ACC Nation. Be sure to listen, like and subscribe to our podcast, radio, and YouTube channels by visiting accnation.net. Follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky and Reddit at ACC Nation.
ACC Nation.